So I'm Sunny Wheaton. I'm really happy to be here with you today. And there are a few familiar faces in the audience, which always helps, you know. So as you can see, I'm in Marin County in Nevada. My office is in a big old airplane hangar. For my father, who was a Marine Corps fighter pilot, used to park his airplane occasionally when he would fly into Hamilton. So it's a sweet thing for me. So I think it's always, when you're talking about issues of spirituality, it's always a good idea, I think, to know who's talking to you and where they're coming from. So I'll just tell you that, and I'm going to talk to you the way I would talk to my patients, all right, or anybody I'm working with. So I grew up in Newport Beach, a Presbyterian. I'm an old Presbyterian front pew church sitter for my whole life. And I still belong to a Presbyterian church in Northern California. But I began to see, just in my own life, that I wanted to expand my understanding of spirituality. I tell people, there's a wonderful quote, I forget who said it, that spirituality is like water, and religion is like a pitcher holding the water. And if the pitcher breaks, the water is still there. Right? So I've been traveling to India the last 2 years. I'm taking a group of 30 this coming September. And I really went on pilgrimage, stayed in ashrams, and really studied with Hindu and Buddhist teachers. And I've had a long-time mentor, Angeles Arian, Dr. Angeles Arian, who's in Sausalito. She's bicultural Basque in the U.S. Her dad is a Basque sheep herder. And Angeles is a cultural anthropologist. She's not a psychologist, not a mental health worker. But you wouldn't know, because she's really one of the most brilliant therapists I know, birth mind therapists. And so Angeles has mentored me for a long time. And what you're going to see today, what I'm going to present today, comes out of Angeles Arian's work, The Fourfold Way. So you can buy The Fourfold Way. It's perennial wisdom. And I found Angeles, and this is an important piece of my own history and spirituality. She came to me in a dream. I had this dream that I was putting 7 candles into a candelabra. Each of the candles had a name. It was all very elaborate. It was a life-changing dream. I do a lot of dream work with my patients. I do dream work myself. And so I worked on that dream for many years. A brochure came in the mail to me about 20 years ago, advertising a program called 7 Candles by Angeles Arian. I'd never heard of the woman, and I looked at that and I said to my husband, I think I need to go to that. And he said, I think you are. It was in Minneapolis. It was in December. I had children at home, and it wasn't going to work for me to get there. So I thought I'd throw the brochure away. About 5 years after that, I was cleaning out under my bed. You know how you clean out under your bed? This brochure says 7 candles. And, oh my gosh, this woman's in Sausalito. So I went to see Angeles, and I said, you know, I think we're meant to work together. And so that's how I found Angeles. And to me, it's a great example of however you want to call it, intervention by the Holy Spirit or serendipity, whatever it is. It was really meant to be. So I've also done work in the Arizona, the Sonoran Desert with the Yaqui medicine man. I have a Navajo spiritual guide as well. So I've kind of explored it all. And I like that. And I tell my clients, you know, get out there and explore a little bit. So a lot of times, I don't know about you, but my patients oftentimes have the hardest time with step 2, step 3. They're stuck. And they don't know what to do about this higher power business. And they really reject the traditional. They're very suspicious of it. Maybe it's been really shoved at them, or maybe they don't know about it. And so I always start with this quote, which I really love, from Alice in Wonderland, reinforcing the possibility. I cannot believe that, said Alice. Can't you? The Queen said in a pitying tone. Try again. Draw a long breath and shut your eyes. Alice laughed. There's no use trying, she said. One can't believe impossible things. I've heard that so many times in my office. It's impossible. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the Queen. When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. You know, many of you said something today about the various places that you work. I talked to Dr. Sharma earlier. It all starts with an impossible dream, I think. You know, I was a kindergarten teacher and I decided I wanted to be a therapist. There's an impossible dream for you, you know. So I think we start with the impossible dream. Spiritual awakening is prescribed as a fundamental goal of recovery from the disease of addiction, including sex addiction, which is sort of the latest thing on the table now. But what is a spiritual awakening? So, while many people find hope and solace in their religious practice, I certainly have. Many others have never been exposed to a religious or spiritual practice. I'm kind of old, so when I was a little girl, everybody went to Sunday school. Even if your parents didn't go to church, they dropped you off. And you were ready to go, or to temple if you were Jewish, you know. I find nowadays, I'm one of the few people that took my kids to church, at least in my neighborhood. So a lot of people don't have any experience with a traditional kind of religious grounding. Or they've been, and it's been very uninspiring to them. They found it like, this is so boring. I'm plunking my butt on the pew, but what is the point of it? And I'm sure all of you have come across people who have really been traumatized in their religious experience. There's been a lot, so much in the news about molestation within the institutionalized church, and not just sexual abuse, but other forms of abuse. Or they've come from places where there's really been religious fanaticism that has been traumatic for them. So I think many of the people who come to 12-step programs have had one of those experiences and need to do something else. So I tell my patients, you don't have to be a religious person. And I go back to, you know, religion is the pitcher and spirituality is the water. So you don't have to have a religion or follow a particular religious faith in order to have a spiritual life. And either way, the goal is to focus the seeker on living a meaningful life that is purposeful. And that's, of course, going to vary from person to person. But I will tell you, and I'm going to talk about it again later in my presentation, I really try to help people think about, what is a purposeful life to you? What does that mean? What is your life's purpose going to be? What do you want your destiny to be? Because, you know, we all have a future, even if our future is we drop dead tomorrow, you know. But a destiny is something that has to be gone after, you know, with real clarity of purpose. This is what my life is going to be about. So the payoff is the development of strength of character. You know, of course, in 12-step programs, and certainly in all forms of psychotherapy, I would hope, character building, developing conscience, developing a spirit of gratitude and service. Those kinds of things are really important. So gratitude, integrity, compassion, personal responsibility, and general inspiration and peace through conscious contact with a higher power. So again, the rest of this presentation really does come out of Angelus's work, which I think has been quite beautiful. So the fourfold way is a blueprint for the essence of sacred teachings. What she's done is she's crystallized sacred teachings from around the world, many, many cultures. And she's gotten it down to the 4 main tenets. So I'm going to say them now, and then we're going to go into them in a little more detail. Is it warm in here, or is it just me being nervous?
It's warm.
Show up and choose to be present, the warrior's way. I tell people who come to my office, when you come here, I want you to show up. I'm showing up. If I didn't want to be here, I'd stay home in bed. But I'm here, and I want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, don't be here. But don't blame it on somebody else. My wife wanted me to come, or my husband wanted me to come, or the dog wanted me to come. This is not about other people wanting you to be here. You're here because you're here. It's your choice, and you don't have to be. So the warrior's way is to show up and to choose to be present. My choice. And I don't blame other people for what's happened to me. My choices, all right? So, number 1, show up and choose to be present. Number 2, pay attention to what has heart and meaning. This is the way of the healer. So I'm going to listen to you with my heart. I'm not so interested in the words, although the content may be interesting. And I'm going to be listening for what is the meaning of what is being said here today. And if I'm going to say something, what is the meaning of what and why am I saying it, in other words? Am I just going to show off and I need to be seen, so I'm going to say something, or I have something I really want to share? So pay attention to what has heart and meaning in myself and for other people. Number 3, tell the truth without blame or judgment. The way of the visionary. That's a hard one. Not that any of them are easy, but to speak my own truth, to not blame you for it. Well, I did that because you made me angry, and I said those things because it was your fault. And I'm just going to say, I feel really angry. I am not blaming you. Could be something you said triggered something in me. That's quite possible. It's really not about you. And I'm going to be listening with heart and meaning, so I'm not going to be judging. And when I catch myself judging, because I'll catch myself judging, I'm going to back that up and say, wait a minute. It's not for me to judge, it's for me to listen and see what has heart and meaning again. So tell the truth without blame or judgment. And then be open to outcome, but not attached to outcome. The hardest of all. I show up, I pay attention, I say my truth, and then I just see what comes. Right? And I let go of what my attachments are and my agenda. And I say, well, there it is, what would you do? So that's the way of the teaching. So I'm going to talk about each of these in a little detail. And Claudia, I like keeping track of the time. Will you kind of tell me when we're halfway and then kind of cue me so that I can talk a lot. So when I'm talking to my patient about, this looks like you have some warrior work to do, and I use those exact terms. This is warrior work. Honor and respect. I'm going to honor and respect myself. I'm going to honor and respect you. I don't engage in verbal violence, right? I use judicious communication. So I think about my words before I say them, and I practice, things like right timing, choosing the right words if I have something challenging to talk about. So judicious communication. I'm as aware as I can be of my effect on others. We always know how an other's effect is on us, right? It's harder for us to see what is my effect on others. Okay? Limits and boundaries, big warrior work. And I know for sure that many of your clients have real challenges with limits and boundaries. So to decide, this is what is okay for me, this is what's not okay for me, and to assert that, it's really important. Assertiveness training is warrior work. Responsibility and discipline. So again, I take personal responsibility for my life, for my behavior, for my choices, and I am disciplined in my life. Many of you who are working in residential settings, there's a structure to it. Many of my patients come to me, even though they may be quite successful in life. I'm a private practitioner, so they have to be fairly successful to get in my office in the first place. But they don't have any discipline, personal discipline about their lives. It's kind of willy-nilly, and somehow they've been able to get away with it. So warrior work is really disciplining ourselves. Saying no to alcohol, saying no to drugs, saying no to 45 cookies that I feel like eating or watching TV, whatever it happens to be. And the right use of power. I think that's a really critical one. All of us, in some form, have personal power. Sometimes that comes through our intellect, sometimes it comes through our affluence, sometimes it comes through our good looks or who our father was or who knows, but we have personal power. And how we use that is really, really important. That we do not misuse our power. I think if you read the newspaper, I read the New York Times every day, you see a lot of misuse of power. And the warrior doesn't misuse power. He or she owns their power, through all the things that I've talked about, but does not misuse it. I'm an experiential therapist, so I try to get my patients up moving around. I give a lot of retreats, and at my retreats we do a lot of experiential stuff. So when we're doing practicing warrior work, we do dancing, and I have particular exercises where I ask people to dance for a group, right? Think about that for a minute. I teach standing meditation. So if this were a longer presentation, I would have you do each of the meditation practices that I'm going to talk about today. Standing meditation is warrior meditation, and what it is, if I just were to give a demo, I'm going to absolutely just stand for about 10 minutes. I'm going to choose a particular spot, and I'm going to run through some questions in my head, like, what do I stand for? What will I not stand for? What do I want to stand for? What does it feel like standing here, standing for that? And standing meditation is strengthening. It's really about, pulling in my belly and my lemon between my shoulder blades and taking, sort of a metaphorical warrior stance, standing tall. What do I want to stand tall about? Where do I shrink? Those are the kinds of questions. If I had all of you standing up today doing warrior meditation, I'd be asking those questions out loud while you were standing. And then I'd be quiet for a very long time. And then process that afterwards. So standing meditation is from the warrior's way. Sometimes if it feels right, and you have to feel what feels right, I will ask people if they have particular animals, power animals, archetypal animals, that are like guides for them. Most of us had a teddy bear or a favorite transitional object when we were kids. My one son had a teddy bear, one son had a blankie. But sometimes we have an affinity for certain animals. For me, it was always spotted cats, so leopard's been one of my helping animals for a long time. And I do meditations where people, find their power animal and so forth. Other helping allies. For me, roses are a helping ally. When I have 2 or 3 roses on my kitchen sink, I can breathe and look at them. They're so beautiful. It reminds me about my gratitude for nature. So those are the kind of things I'm talking about with helping allies. And I ask people, what's going to help you feel better in the morning when you get up? What would you like from your kitchen counter or your bathroom sink? Would it be a little Christmas tree? What would it be that's going to feel really good to you, being an ally? Of course, as with all archetypal patterns, the warrior has shadow side. And certainly our clients can relate to these authority issues. Now, when somebody I'm working with has real authority issues, I talk to them about, you got these authority issues. I mean, if I say black, you say white, and you've gotten in trouble with every teacher and every principal and every police officer and, your mother and a long list. And it tells me that somehow authority has let you down and become untrustworthy. Because usually if we have a good relationship with authority, we trust it. It hasn't betrayed us. So when we're having authority issues, we really have to look at, the roots of that, and to also see that it's the shadow side of the warrior. Damn it, I don't have to. I know you don't have to, but let's move on. So rebellion, similar. Patterns of invisibility. That's a really important one. I think I'm correct in saying it's more important for women. I think we have a harder time showing up. Men are pretty used to showing up in powerful positions. I think we women have something to learn. And I say to people that I'm working with, and when I do a lot of group work, in my group work, I tell people, even though we all know your name, we've been with you for years, bring your name forward. My name is Sunny Whedon, and I want to ask this question. So don't be invisible. You had an opportunity to bring your name forward today. Bring your name forward. And do it from a warrior stance. The way of the healer. Now, some of you may have guessed that the 4 directions here come from the Native American medicine, right? So the healer stands in juxtaposition to the warrior. Okay, so the warrior is about owning our power, having good boundaries. The healer's on the other side. Lots and lots and lots of heart, right? Feeling. So the 4-chambered heart, this is Again, we could spend hours talking about the four-chambered heart, but the four chambers are full. Am I approaching this situation full-heartedly or half-heartedly? I don't really want to write that paper, so until I have a full heart about it, I probably shouldn't do it. Am I being open-hearted in this relationship, or have I closed my heart to you? Clear-hearted. Am I clear in my perceptions? You know, sometimes facts and feelings don't match. And am I clear-hearted here, and am I strong-hearted? Do I have a strong heart? The principle of reciprocity. I think those of you who work with kids, this is so important, but it's important in all our relationships. Reciprocity, of course, is the foundation of healthy relationships. I do for you, you do for me. I think about you on your birthday, you send me a little card, say, I hope things are going well. I don't know how it is here, although I have my suspicions, but in my county, in Marin, in Orange County, there is so much over-gratifying of children. Everything is given and everything is done for them, and there's nothing coming back. They won't even load the dishwasher. Oh, I have everything, and I'm not doing a damn thing for you. So I really talk to people about, you know, if we want heart connection, it has to be reciprocal. There is such a thing as charity. I can send off a check to charity, or I can do some volunteer work. It's quite clear I don't expect anything back. Maybe not even thank you, you know. But in relationship, I want something back. I want your respect. I want, you know, your kindness and love. And the only way we can do that is if there's a balanced flow between us. So I tell people I'm not keeping track. They sent me a card. But I can feel if there's reciprocity, or if I'm doing it all and you're doing nothing, or you're doing it all and I'm really not that interested. You know, then we have some work to do. I have some work to do. Okay, so activities to embody the healer. Well, storytelling. And of course, therapy is always about us telling our story and trying to have, you know, a coherent narrative to our story. So I tell stories in therapy. Many therapists have been taught to, you know, maintain this really tight frame, and you don't get to know anything about me. For me, that is not the way to work. I'm pretty transparent, you know, and I tell stories, healing stories from my life that I think will be useful. And I'm not telling them just to hear myself talk. I'm telling them because I thought, I think this might be helpful to you. So, as a little aside, you know, Stacy mentioned my book, Many Blessings. It tells the story of 30 amazing African-American women and how they transcended, wherever they happened to be, transcended prejudice, segregation, etc., and lived these beautiful, altruistic lives. So the stories, we live on each other's stories oftentimes. Lying meditation, this one is important. This is not just lying down, you know. This is called cradling. So when I have someone who has real struggle with self-esteem, they're not really seeing their own strengths, they're feeling badly about themselves, I say, okay, here's your assignment. I'm going to show you how to do it, and then you have to do it every single day at home and come back and tell me what it was like. I want you to lie on the floor. I want you to put your right hand over your heart, and I want you to put your left hand up like this. Your left hand is up only so that if you go to sleep, you wake yourself back up. And out loud, with your eyes closed, you're going to say every good thing you know about yourself. I'm a good cook. I'm a pretty good seamstress. I am really good at organizing drawers and bookshelves. I'm a good friend. I remember people's birthdays. They're on my calendar. On and on and on. I don't care how trivial. I think my hair looks good today. You know, whatever it is, just keep it rolling. It's called cradling. I'm cradling myself because I need to remind myself of the positive aspects of me, right? There's plenty negative to talk about, but sometimes I need to remind myself of the good things about me. So lying meditation and cradling work, journey work in the drum. Again, I don't do this much with individual patients in my office, but if somebody really wants to have the experience of a shamanic journey, I will drum for them and do a guided meditation, or I will just drum for them and let them take themselves on their own guided meditation. The drum, of course, is the heartbeat. And so several treatment programs I've done assessment for did drumming circles on a regular basis as a healing activity. So shadow aspects to be explored. I really love this. 4 universal addictions. The addiction to intensity. Man, drama. Angelus, my teacher, says, drama is an indulgence. Why are you indulging yourself this way? And I say that exactly to my patients who come with some big hysterical drama. I say, you know, you're indulging yourself. And we just really can't have this. So if you want to tell me, you know, kind of factually, I'm trying to get back up into the head, tell me what happened, you know, I can listen, but I don't advise you to engage in drama. Addiction to perfection. If it's not perfect, it's no good. Back to cradling work, you know. I think those of us who have gone to graduate school have a certain amount of perfectionist in us, a certain amount of obsessive compulsive. You do not get a PhD like I did without being able to check the boxes and count the things and obsessively do things. So it's an important aspect to look at. How is my perfectionism getting in the way of my relationships with myself and with others? The need to know why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to him? Why? I got a little cancer and I don't understand why I've been so good. You know, there's so much we just don't know and we're never going to. And part of our spiritual practice is coming to terms with that. It's a mystery. Most of life is. And fixated on what's not working. Again, back to the cradling work. Right? Let's focus on what is working and do some strength-based work. Of course, it's fine to look at what's not working, but I'm talking about being fixated. Everything's crappy. Every day, life is a bowl of poop soup, and every day's another sip. You know, that kind of. And don't you hear that? And you know, let's either get a little Prozac or something, or let's focus on it. And while we're getting the Prozac, let's take something that is working. Right? So the way of the healer. Is time halfway? Good. Okay. The visionary. All right, visionary. This is where I really talk to people about their purpose and their life dream. And as therapy progresses, you said you do long-term work. Me too. I love long-term work because you can get to this. You can get through with, you know, some of the wreckage or whatever and really get to the human potential aspects. So, came here to planet Earth, chose those parents, got yourself in this situation, whatever it is, and what are you going to make of it? What is your destiny? What do you believe it is? And let's get clear about it so we can put it in one sentence, not a paragraph, one sentence. Really sift it down, laser clear. This is what I'm here to do. Now, I will always add in, when we know what our destiny is, we know how we've come to serve. It's always about service in one form or another. Whether you're shining shoes or doing neurosurgery, it's all about service, if you see it that way. And finding our destiny, seeing it that way, and living from that spiritual place that says, people need their shoes shined, and I'm the best person to do it. Authenticity. What you see is what you get. And that's why I said earlier, I really have lived for over 40 years in the community that I serve. I've been at the Little League parade waving to my kids and everybody else's kids, and you know, I let myself be seen, flaws and all. So I think our own authenticity is critical to the therapeutic process, and that certainly doesn't mean I have to tell all my secrets to my patients. Not like that, but you get to see me, you know, doing my life and struggling in my way through it. Telling the truth. Big piece of recovery is learning to live in integrity, with impeccability. The 4 ways of seeing: intuition, perception, insight. There should be a comma here. I always see a little something. And vision. So you know, sometimes you're working with someone who has some intuition. Sometimes you just perceive it. You have a piece of insight or vision, and I'm trying to help them do the same. I'm working now with a man who's highly educated, Stanford Medical School, brilliant, excellent at what he does, no insight. Can't connect behavior and consequences, and doesn't see his own motivation. So sometimes our work, no matter how brilliant our person is, there's no insight or intuition. And our job is to help them learn to connect the dots and hopefully develop insight. It's a big task. And vision, which is really different from the other ways of seeing. I want to say something here also that's not on here, but I really use a lot of metaphor in my work with people. And especially if I'm working with them on spiritual issues, I'll talk about, well, for our purposes here, I'll tie it back to nature. I'll say, you know, today when I was driving to work, there was a tree that had 5 buzzards on it. And I thought, that's interesting. It's a little sign to me. What are buzzards? They're the cleaners, right? They clean up dead stuff and, stuff that wouldn't run around anymore. What is it I need to clean up? What are those buzzards? They're talking to me and they're saying, well, some of you got some dead stuff around you need to clean up. So I'll try to help them move into metaphor so that living in metaphor deepens our work and also deepens their own spiritual life, right? So that, well, you know. All right. Possible tools for embodying, singing. Now, again, I don't do this in individual therapy, although every once in a while somebody will be talking about something and a song comes to my mind that absolutely says whatever it is they're talking about. I'm an old kindergarten teacher, so if I can, I'll just sing it for a minute and say, you were talking, this is what came to my mind, right? And again, it's that little piece of metaphor maybe. So singing. Every year for the last 4 years, I have brought Dr. Issei Barnwell, who sings with Sweet Honey in the Rock, to Marin County. And we do a community singing day, and I have all my patients come, as well as anybody else who wants to come. And we do African American history and story and song. Now, I just pulled up an advertisement for a program on trauma that the Meadows is giving in Boston. And there's Dr. Barnwell's name. Bessel van der Kolk came to her program in Colorado last year, and she called me up and she said, guess what? Dr. van der Kolk came to my community singing thing, and he said, we got to do this for trauma. You'd be surprised. Singing is a powerful, powerful medium for trauma. A friend of mine who's a psychologist at Loretta Jenkins Monroe received a Fulbright scholarship. She was the first African-American psychologist to win a Fulbright, and she took it to Africa, to East Africa, Uganda. And I was asking Loretta about group therapy one time, because I do a lot of groups. She did groups there. I said, what were the groups like? She said, well, Sonny, I would have about 25 women, because we were serving women and children with AIDS. I'd have 25 women in my group. And the next week, half of those would be dead, and there'd be half of those would be dead. Well, we did a lot of singing. She said we did singing, we did drumming. It's very healing. If you're leading groups, I encourage you, tell them you're going to sing some songs. If there's time, I'll sing one for you at the end. Okay, meditation, traditional sitting meditation, prayer, contemplation, walking meditation. So walking meditation is, I will tell my clients, I really want you to be out in nature. If you can be out in nature an hour a day. If you want to know how to handle change, watch nature. It's changing all the time. In the fall, the leaves fall gracefully. They don't cry about it, So watch nature and you'll learn more about change. You'll be inspired. So get outdoors and walk. And walk by yourself if you can, or if you're walking with someone in silence, and just notice what's around you. Vision Quest, I do a Vision Quest every year. If you have a chance to do Vision Quest, it's usually 4 days, 3 nights in the wilderness by yourself. It's a very powerful time, so That would be lovely if you can, or if they can. There are, in my area, there are people who will take clients. I can refer to Tom Kingston in my area and others, and they'll take them out on Vision Quest. It's a wonderful, life-changing thing. Shadow aspects. The false self-system. And there's a lot of that in Orange County. You know, I have a Mercedes, so I'm good. You know, the whole false self, the material. I have the material world conquered, and I'm okay. And I present myself in a certain way, but I feel really empty. Self-abandonment, when I let myself be taken advantage of. I know what I'm doing, but I'm letting it happen. Projections. I didn't really like the look of that guy. Something about the way his clothes were. You know, projecting all my value judgments on someone else. I need to take that back. And also look at what kind of projections am I usually involved in. Fixed perceptions, blind spots. And we all have them. There are fixed perceptions. And our blind spots, the things that we aren't even really aware of, right, that we're doing that's offensive perhaps, called microaggressions, blind spots. And to really be open to have somebody point it out. I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of one right off. But remember one time my son called me, a wonderful son, Isaiah, and he said, "Mom, you said blah, 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 blah." I forget what it was exactly. It was something he said, "That was really wrong. I was really offended by that." And of course, being me, I was at first defensive. I did not. Mm-hmm. But I really had to open my heart and say, wait a minute, I wasn't aware that I was doing that. And I'm so grateful that you were courageous enough to tell me. Teacher. Well, the teacher is about wisdom. And if you are a therapist or you're aspiring to be, there's only so much technique you can learn. You can learn how to take a history, make a genogram, do cognitive behavioral therapy, blah, 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 blah. And it's all good. I'm not in any way discounting it. But a lot of times you're going to be working out of your own life experience and what you've learned and your own wisdom. And sometimes it'll be your wisdom, sometimes it'll be somebody else's. It is just like me in therapy to say, you know, my grandmother always said. So I think our clarity and our objectivity, our discernment, and our detachment are part of our wisdom. Wisdom is what we know intellectually combined with our life experience. Right? And being trusting. How trusting are we? How comfortable can you be with uncertainty? I think to be a therapist, for sure, we have to be uncomfortable with uncertainty. We have to have a larger spiritual belief system that says, you know, I'm just a conduit for the higher power. And to really talk about that with our patients as well. Mm-hmm. You could go over and pray about that a little bit, meditate on it, use whatever language is comfortable for them, and see what comes to you about this. So, I have a whole ancestor meditation that I do, and I'll give you the gist of it. Look at the time, because we could do it maybe not. I have people close their eyes and imagine themselves standing in front of themselves, looking great, your favorite outfit, your favorite hairstyle, looking good, with your mother and father behind you, father on the right, mother on the left, one hand on your shoulder. And whether they were good, bad, or otherwise in this life, whether they're alive or not, what every parent from a spiritual standpoint wants for their beloved child is good things. So just imagine your mother and your father sending healing energy, powerful healing energy to you through their hands on your shoulder. And now imagine their parents behind them. Same thing, their hands on their child's shoulder, sending forward energy to you. Good. Now imagine your great-grandparents, and if you don't know what they look like, make them up. And I have people go back until they have this huge triangle of people behind them, back to the beginning of time. I say, so all those people are sending the energy, and they're saying, may he, may she be the one to break the dysfunctional patterns of the past. So I'm really trying to help people see whoever your parents are. We have all different kinds of parents, some good, some not so good. Some have had very little success in healing themselves. Others have done a great job, or came into a family that didn't have a lot of deep healing that needed doing. Whoever they are, from a spiritual standpoint, they want the best for you, and they cheer you on to break the dysfunctional patterns that were passed to you. As humans, we have our faults, there's no question about it, so there's always something to be worked on. There's always something. So, ancestors. I will sometimes ask, do you have a favorite ancestor? Is there somebody that really saw you, or that you imagine? I have this huge relationship with my maternal grandfather, who I never met. He was gassed in the trenches in World War I and died from toxic exposure that took the form of a brain tumor. But I feel very connected to him. And, I'll talk to him sometimes. Well, Ray, what'd you think? You had all this experience. What do you think about this? So I will try to have my patients have, if they don't have really functional parents or didn't have, is there somebody? Maybe it's not even a relative. Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a Sunday school teacher, maybe it was a Boy Scout leader, somebody who really saw you and thought you were just terrific. Sitting meditation in silence. It's probably the hardest meditation, and people struggle with it, but it's a wonderful thing. So I will teach those things in very specific ways. The shadow aspects for exploration of patterns of positionality. Damn it, this is the way it's going to be. I'm a Democrat and that's it. Judgment and control. Confusion, I just don't know what I think. And attachments. It has to turn out this way, otherwise I would be so disappointed. So I've talked about meditation, and it's a wonderful way into spiritual living. So I will teach the 4 types that I told you very specifically in my office. We practice. I tell them about 2 apps if they have iPhones. One is called Headspace. Maybe some of you know it. Headspace is excellent. A therapist in San Francisco told me about it, Julie Leary. You get 10 free sessions, and then if you like it, you contract. You can buy it for, I think it's $113 for a year or something like that. And it's 10 minutes a day. It's wonderful. It's great, and the guy who teaches it on the app is great. I like Relax and Rest. I have that on my iPhone. That's a free app. And it's a guided meditation. It's a woman's voice. You can have nature sounds if you want. You can have music. You can have it be quiet and just your voice. And there's like a 5-minute, a 13-minute, a 24-minute meditation. And I close the door on a session. I put on Relax and Rest for 5 minutes, and I feel refreshed. So I recommend those if you're not going to take a few minutes to practice to make it a good time. But the meditation is a great way to move on into prayer for folks who do not have a prayer life. I have a very anxious, rebellious young man, a college student, who said, I'm never going to pray. I went to Catholic school. I really hated all of it and crap. And I said, yeah, well, here's what I want you to do, Mike. I want you to give me names of 5 people that you really care deeply about. So his mom, his dad, his brother, his girlfriend, and his roommate. Good. I said, now add me to the list, please. Son of reading. Now, every day when you get up, I want you to say, Sunny Whedon, may she be happy, may she be healthy, may she have everything she needs to be successful today in her life. Mama, may she be happy, may she be healthy. I have him write this down, and I check. Did you pray for me today? And he's doing it. And he's still saying, well, I just don't like this higher power stuff. And I say, I don't really care. As long as you're praying for me. And this one goes down. And now let's add 5 more, 25 more names. How about some of your professors at Santa Clara? They need prayer. What about President Obama? He needs prayer. And we're making a list, and he's doing it. So I sneak him in the back door sometimes. Now, I will tell you, if people have had, I will often ask, I forgot to say this in the beginning, I will ask in the beginning, when you were a little kid, did you go to church or temple or, yeah, where'd you go? Well, I went to the Lutheran Sunday School. Good, says I. Then I want you to go 5 times to the local Lutheran whatever. Check it out. 5 times. If it's really boring and horrible and you don't really like it, then forget it. We'll figure out something else. But just check it out and see if the familiarity or anything that's said, or the people you look around and they look like, these look like kind of nice, interesting people. You know, let's build on whatever there has been, right? And then for me, I talk about some of my explorations. I'll talk about my time in the Sonoran Desert with Lynch Archuleta, and some of what I learned from Lynch and the experiences I had in the desert. And I say things like, you know, one of the most powerful things that happened is Lynch gave me an assignment and put me over on a rock, but I could see him off in the distance and he was praying for me. That was amazing. He was praying for me. Or I tell about, you know, I was in the ashram in Mysore 2 years ago, and I learned to live in such a way that if, it was pretty Spartan, you guys, but if everybody on planet Earth lived that way, everybody would have enough, right? And I just talk about that because I'm trying to go for the bigger picture. I want people to be conscious about things like saving our planet. I don't want them to eat fast food. And I say, did you know fast food is the biggest polluter right behind medical waste? Wrecking the environment, don't go there. You know? So I take those kinds of risks. I don't know if that's right for you or not. But I encourage you to think about the concepts that I presented today. I encourage you to get Angelus's book, The Fourfold Way, if it appeals to you in any way, because, you know, it's just some great material to pass on and get assignments out of. I think that might be the last slide, is it? Oh, yeah. I will ask people to create their own a map of their spiritual path. When's the first time you thought about a higher power, whatever you call it? And did you go to Sunday school or church, or did you have an experience in nature where you felt really close to nature or the Holy Spirit? You know, I'll just ask you, let's do it all through up to the present time. What do you see as your own spiritual life? And does it come through music, or what is the medium for you? And we'll just explore that and try to do it from the beginning all the way through, just the way you would make any other kind of a life map. Sometimes when they bring in their life map, they will have illustrated it themselves. Sometimes they say, why don't you have a picture of this? So we're at, I think we've gone over time. Have we gone over time? No? We have time? Good. Okay. So I want to know if you have questions or something you'd like me to talk about more. I want to hear how you do these things. You're all out there doing it in some form. Yes.
I have a question for you. Your presentation seems to have a Jungian foundation. It's like, well, I want you to speak more about that.
Well, I started my graduate work at USC in the early 70s. And my program was completely humanistic existential, which is atheistic. At least it was at that time. And we were not allowed to talk about God. Right? God does not exist, so why would we talk about God? It didn't really make much sense to me, but that was my program. And there was a guy in the department who I never met until 3 years ago named Sam Kimball, but he was like a legend. Sam Kimball is a Jungian. Sam Kimball is a Jungian. There's this Jungian guy saying, I didn't even know what that meant. I had no idea. But you know, I really have been a spiritual seeker since I was a little girl. In 3rd grade here in California, it used to be that you studied Native Americans. And when the teacher said, who wants to be in charge of writing the paper on Native American Indian religion, I said, I do, and I got my little committee. And, I mean, I just always was interested. So I have a best friend who I met in my church in Sausalito, who lives in Little Rock, Arkansas. So you've asked a question, now I'm going to tell you a story. Her name is Susan Sims Smith, and Susan was an LCSW in Little Rock, and she was told in a dream to become an Episcopal priest. Now it's kind of funny, she worked for Presbyterian Family Services, she was Presbyterian her whole life like me, that's where I met her, and she became an Episcopal priest. So Susan met Marion Woodman, the great Jungian analyst, and asked to be in analysis with Marion. And Susan taught me from Marion. And when Susan was ordained in Little Rock at the cathedral, Marion Woodman came and gave the sermon. And she also gave a retreat day for all of us who had come for the ordination. And I'm telling you guys, it was incredible. I learned so much. Every time I give a workshop, I teach what Marion taught. I teach the dance that she taught us. We all danced. And it was very powerful. So I was very moved by that, and I read all of Marion's books, and I could barely understand most of them. It was really, big. But I loved that, and I happen to belong to a church that's very Jungian, right? We're way out there on the fringe, so we have the Sufi dancers come, and lots of interesting stuff. So it's just been an interest of mine. And it is very Jungian, though I'm not one. My PhD is in family psychology and family systems. So I've never formally studied Jungian psychology, but I love it. I think he was right. Called or not called, God is present. That is the sign that come over his door. Yeah. Yes.
At the very beginning, you mentioned that, as we all know, so many people struggle with the concept of a higher power of God, and then have some resistance. But it's interesting, in the description of the Fourfold Way, there really isn't a reference to a higher power. It's more of a higher self.
We're coming in the back door.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's something that
Character
could really relate to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the best of psychotherapy when we are helping ourselves as the therapist and our patient be a better person, through character development. And really, when you think about it, there's really very little of that out in the world, ongoing, lifelong character development.
Part two of the question is, so some people that would absolutely relate to this and say, no, I can absolutely believe this, but then at the end of the day, they feel that their spiritual path is this journey toward being a higher self, but they still don't regard the higher external power as part of that. It's just a different way.
It's a different way. And I try not to get involved in the resistance. I simply say, well, I don't know what it is, but I haven't had much success in demanding that a daffodil grow, I don't know. Call it Mother Nature if you want. We like to have names for things, but some things are nameless.
Yeah.
Native Americans, when they pray, often say, "You who shall remain the nameless one," the mystery. It's a mystery. They don't know. People say they know, they don't know. They get committed to a path, and I think that's a fine thing. Yes.
A lot of what you are talking about is very, I can tell, Buddhist-based as well. Can you elaborate a little more on what Buddhist work you've done?
Well, yes, I'll tell you another story. I was invited to the open house of a treatment center in my area, and I did not want to go. And my friend Bridget said, "Oh, come on, they'll have good food," which she did. And the treatment center had opened in a hotel. They bought a hotel that some Buddhist monks used to stay in when they would come to town. They would knock at the hotel, and the hotel would let them stay for free. Now, the Oracle of Tibet was with these monks at this time, and they knocked on the door. They didn't know it wasn't a hotel anymore. And the people who had bought it said, "Well, sure, we're not open yet. We got bedrooms. Come on in." Okay. So I go to this reception, and it's the Oracle of Tibet and his entourage. And I already signed up for a private audience with him. Now, don't ask me why. I'm just curious, I'm just curious. I'll go see the hugging whoever, whatever. I just want to have a look. So I already knew I was going to see him. So one of his entourage came up to me and said, I see from your name tag that you're a psychologist. Yes, says I. He says, my name is Lama Tenzin, and I have an orphanage in India, and I understand that you do trauma work. Yes, I do. Well, I have 22 kids, and they're all traumatized. Would you come to India and help them? And I say, I mean, I'm not a wealthy woman. I work every day, and I need to work every day. So I say, you know, I would love to do that, but I will never be able to do it. I'm so sorry. He says, can I have your card? Yes, says I. My card. Never think about it again. I mean, it was just a nice encounter. I went to see the Oracle, which is another amazing story. And the same monk was there and told me the protocol: you must sit so that your head is lower, do not show the bottoms of your feet alive. So I saw Lama Tenzin again. 1 year later, I get a phone call, and it's this man, Lama Tenzin. He says, oh, this is Lama Tenzin. Do you remember me? I'm thinking, Lama Tenzin, Lama Tenzin. I've to the Oracle. Yes, I remember you. I'm coming to town, and I want to know if I can come and stay with you. I'm like, so I turn to my husband and I say, there's a guy on the phone from India. He wants to know if he'd come stay with us. And my husband's a doll. He goes, well, did you like him? I said, well, he seemed kind of nice. He goes, okay, you can stay. So the guy says, pick me up in Alameda. That's an hour from my house. Here's the address. Pick me up in Alameda at 8 o'clock on Thursday night. So I say to Rob, we're going to go pick this guy up. And I have to work. Will you go pick him up? Yes, sure. So Lama Tenzin began to come and stay with us. With my friend Susan Smith in Little Rock, the Episcopal priest, had become a devotee as a priest of Swamiji, the Hindu Swami in Mysore, who's in many ashrams in India. And she said, Sunny, you're going to come to India with me. We're going to go to the ashram. I'm like, I can't afford to do this. She goes, no, you're going to. Just get your credit card out. We're going. So I said, this is my one and only trip to India. It's $1,700 just to arrive there with a round trip ticket. Never mind the rest. And being away from your office is expensive. So I tell Lama Tenzin that we're coming, and I say, this is my one and only trip, and by gosh, I'm going to see the Taj Mahal because I have pictures of it since I was a little girl. So I tell Lama Tenzin, Susan and I are going to come to India. We're not coming by you. He's with me now. Just hearing these stories, it will take a long time. Anyway, I said, we're not coming by you, Lama, so I still am not coming to see the kids. And he says, you come to Delhi, I will meet you. I will take you to the Taj Mahal. You need me to take you. So he takes us to the Taj Mahal. We, of course, pay his way. He doesn't have any money. He's got 22 kids. And we have this wonderful time. Now, I will tell you, staying in an ashram in India is extremely challenging. Just being in India is very challenging for me. I think for most Americans, it's scary, and it's crowded, and it's pretty polluted. You're running plastic, there's no recycling. But Lama and I have become good friends. Last year, I took 12 physicians and therapists to the orphanage in Dehradun, and we worked with the kids. And we toured the big charity hospital there. I was telling Dr. Sharma, we interviewed the one and only psychiatrist for a city of 500,000 people. So I'm not really answering your question. What do I know about Buddhism? Well, I've been to His Holiness's palace. I've had quite a number of sessions with the Oracle, and I think it's all very interesting. I think it's wonderful. So I'm for it. I don't know about here. In my county, Spirit Rock and Jack Kornfield are there. Many of my patients try that out and love it. And my office mate is a psychiatrist, is on the board there. So that's a big active going on in Marin County. And I think it's wonderful. The meditation. I had breakfast recently with Noah Levine, who wrote Dharma Punks, and he has that whole Dharma Punks Against the Stream thing going. And I think it's great. I see it appealing to young people. Why not? Why not? I think it's wonderful. When I heard Noah talk, I asked him, what about AA and the 12 steps? He said, for me, Sonny, I don't really want the talk. I don't want the Lord's Prayer at the end. I don't want Christian theology in it. It doesn't work for me. But I tell people, you must go to 12-step program because it's big, it's foundational, you know, and then if you want to do driver concert or dance streaming, that's fine, but you need to be grounded in the air. So that's what I think about it. Okay? You're welcome.